What if I weren't a senator? She asked, her gaze following the black woman choking back tears as she clutched her boarding pass, standing between the gate and an unjust decision. In the chaos at Gate B34, the two women faced an age-old prejudice that has never disappeared, that a black person's dissenting voice is easily seen as a threat. But this time, silence didn't last long. Selena Moore, a U.S. Senator Flying Incognito stepped out of the quiet passenger line and pulled out her ID, not to show off, but to stop an innocent woman from being dragged away simply for asking, "Where's the seat I paid for?" And in that moment, when truth and power intersected, everything changed, not just for Monica, but for the entire airline industry, for public opinion, and for those who had been forced into silence. A true story of prejudiced power speaking up, and a battle that began at the airport, but reached all the way to the Senate. If you ever believed that only the big places create change, watch till the end of this story. And if this story touches your heart, don't forget to share the video, and subscribe to the channel to spread more human messages. Let's begin. The flight attendant called the police on a black woman at the boarding gate, but then she pulled out an ID card identifying herself as a U.S. Senator. They say the heart of an airport always beats with the tension in the air. Passengers rush about, gates change at the last minute, and the countdown silently ticks down to departure time. But on a scorching summer day at Liberty Airways gate at Franklin Monroe International Airport, something was even more tense than the fear of missing a flight. Whispers spread through the crowd. A black woman was arguing with the attendant at the counter, gripping her carry-on bag, tears almost welling up. A subtle wave of anxiety spread when security was called. No one expected that the woman wasn't just another rush passenger. Her next move would shock everyone in the vicinity and change everything. Selena Moore woke up groggy that morning. She had been sleepless for weeks. Recent congressional hearings had been incredibly tense, forcing her to read hundreds of pages of policy documents. Not to mention, she was constantly traveling across states meeting with constituents, people who were always excited to see a passionate young black woman representing them in the U.S. Senate. Senator Moore, just in her early 30s, was a phenomenon, young, resilient, and uncompromising when it came to defending her beliefs. She had defied all odds to win a special election 2 years ago, and since then she had represented her home state with a vitality that earned her the respect and wariness of older colleagues. That morning she stood in the hotel room in Fairford ironing her navy blue suit. Her flight was scheduled to depart at 10:15 a.m. from Franklin Monroe. She carefully placed her official Senate ID into her wallet, a move so habitual it was almost instinctive. Looking into the mirror in the bathroom, Selena smiled faintly, though the fatigue was clear on her face. She had just one day in Jefferson City before she had to return to Fairford to speak at a student seminar. "Come on," she told herself, trying to stir up the energy that once came so naturally. In the mirror, her face reflected both her failures and victories. Her black hair neatly tied back like makeup. She wanted to look polished, in case someone recognized her, but simple enough not to stand out too much. Flying had become a physical endurance test. She just hoped the trip would go smoothly. But as she rolled her suitcase to the hotel lobby, an uneasy feeling crept into her heart. Something about today just didn't feel right. With her job, such feelings sometimes came with the pressure. She brushed it off. In just a few hours, she'd be on Liberty Flight 4XC82, sipping coffee and reviewing the summary for her upcoming hearing. Franklin Monroe Airport, one of the busiest in the world, was bustling just like every other morning. The smell of freshly brewed coffee drifted from the row of cafes near the security checkpoint. Long lines of passengers, business travelers, vacationing families, college students, snaked around the barriers. Selena arrived early as usual and breezed through security. She was used to the curious glances from fellow passengers. Maybe they had seen her face on TV or on a billboard somewhere. Some were simply captivated by her confident presence. But Selena quietly walked through, offering a light smile, nodding at those who engaged her. She grabbed a double espresso at Bean Corner near Gate B18. It was a bit bitter, but caffeine was exactly what she needed right now. Then she spotted her gate, B34, where a long line of people were waiting, all anxiously awaiting the boarding announcement. The screen hanging above clearly displayed Flight 4682 to Jefferson City, departing at 10:15 on time. Pleased that she was still early, Selena chose a seat away from the crowd, opened her laptop, and started reviewing her schedule for the day. At least 6 staff members were waiting for her at the Capitol. There were important calls to make, speech edits, and a media interview to finish. As she typed away, a young mother with a crying baby sat next to her. Selena gave the baby a gentle smile, though the mother looked too exhausted to notice. The chaos at the airport didn't bother her. She even felt invigorated amidst the rush. Still, her gaze kept drifting toward the check-in counter. There were 2 middle-aged attendants in Liberty Airways uniforms behind the counter. A woman with short curly hair, her name tag read Diana, and a man with glasses named Martin. They occasionally pointed at the screen or typed something on the keyboard. Everything seemed normal. Just another day like any other. 30 minutes before boarding, Selena stood up to stretch her legs. She grabbed her suitcase and laptop bag, heading toward the water station to refill her personal bottle. On the way back, as she navigated the crowded hallway, someone bumped into her shoulder. "Ouch!" she muttered, stumbling a step. A tall man wearing a business suit glared at her as if it were her fault. She quickly apologized, even though it was clearly not entirely her fault. He shot her a glare, muttered something under his breath, and walked off. Selena exhaled slowly. Though she was used to subtle discrimination, this blatant rudeness still stung. Just as she was about to head back to her seat, she noticed a small crowd gathering near the counter. A third attendant, name tag reading Logan, was arguing with a passenger. The passenger was a young black woman with braided hair, looking very tense. Her voice was high-pitched, but not shouting. Selena hesitated, unsure whether to intervene. Experience told her that stepping in at the wrong time could often make things worse. But as she continued watching, Logan's voice began to rise. "Ma'am, I've told you, if you don't calm down, we won't let you board the plane," Logan said, his face turning red. The passenger was on the verge of tears. "I'm not causing trouble. My seat was double booked, and I need to make this flight. You can't just—" Diana, the woman Selena had noticed earlier, stepped forward, placing a hand on Logan's shoulder to signal him to pause. They led the young woman away from the crowd to speak privately. Passengers near the gate glanced at them anxiously. Though unsettled, Selena decided not to intervene. She returned to her seat, put on noise-canceling headphones, and tried to focus on her work emails, but her heart ached for the young woman. She had been in a similar situation before, fighting to keep the seat she had paid for. Airlines sometimes overbook. But what struck Selena the most was the fear in the woman's eyes. Selena understood the fear of being labeled an angry black woman, the fear that even a slight reaction could result in being called security, despite having a perfectly valid reason. At 9:45, the gate agent made the first boarding announcement. Passengers with disabilities, families with young children, and military personnel. Selena, though eligible for priority boarding, chose to stand aside. She wanted to quietly board later, and more than anything, she wanted to see if the young woman's situation was resolved. Logan was reading the final announcements when the tall man who had bumped into Selena earlier suddenly strode up to the gate, his face full of anger, pointing at his watch and complaining that he needed to board immediately. Meanwhile, the young black woman stood to one side, eyes brimming with tears, rummaging through her bag. The atmosphere at the gate grew noticeably tense. When the second group was called, the line quickly formed. Selena joined the line, still observing the situation. Then she heard Logan lower his voice clearly. trying to contain his frustration, speaking to the young woman. "You're not boarding this flight. I told you to calm down. But you keep arguing. I paid for this ticket." The young woman responded, "I'm not yelling or threatening anyone. I just want to speak to the manager to find out why my seat was taken." Selena knew well that situations like this could quickly spiral out of control. She hesitated for a moment, then her conscience told her she couldn't stand by. She gently stepped out of line, walked over to the young woman, and asked softly, "Do you need help?" The young woman turned, her eyes filled with relief. The name tag from a conference she had worn was still there, clearly reading Monica. "They won't even check my confirmation code," Monica said, her voice trembling. "They said I'm being rude, but I'm not. I'm just angry because the ticket I bought months ago is no longer valid." "I understand," Selena replied gently. "Let me try talking to them for you." She approached Logan, keeping her tone polite. "Could we speak to the manager, or can you recheck her ticket? It might just be a mistake." Logan frowned, clearly irritated. "Ma'am, this doesn't concern you. If you want to board, please return to the line. We're handling this." His cold tone made Selena's shoulders tense slightly. She took a deep breath. "I understand. I just wanted to help her if possible." "I told you we're handling it," Logan nearly snapped. He then turned to Monica. "If you don't leave here immediately, I'll call airport security." Selena sensed that something bad was about to happen. She turned to Monica. "We should step aside, call the airline's customer support line, or ask for the manager." Before they could move, the tall man spoke up again, clearly trying to draw attention. "Causing trouble again. People like this never learn manners." His voice was loud enough for everyone around to hear. A few passengers glanced over, but no one said anything. Monica's lips trembled. "I'm not causing trouble. I just want my seat." Selena gently placed her hand on Monica's shoulder and whispered, "Forget what he said. We'll figure this out." The two women stepped out of the gate area, but Logan immediately followed. Diana appeared as well, her face tense. "What's going on?" "We still have a flight to board," she snapped, arms crossed. Selena remained calm. "I just want to clarify Monica's seat issue. She was told that her seat was double booked. She just wants either a replacement seat or a refund. As long as it's handled reasonably, I don't see her behaving threateningly at all." Diana sniffed, asking coldly, "Are you a flight attendant?" "I'm just another passenger," Selena answered. "We both booked seats on this flight. Then mind your own business. If it doesn't concern you, stay away." Selena felt her body heat rising. She had faced countless bureaucratic obstacles in Congress, but she had never been dismissed so harshly in public. "I'm just asking for fairness," she said, her voice still calm. "Monica is worried about missing her flight. If you can't seat her, at least put her on another flight or compensate her. Is there a manager here?" "We don't have time for that." Logan cut in. "She's been disrespectful from the start." Monica's eyes widened. "I just asked you to check the seat number. You're rude and loud." "Rude," Monica exclaimed, though her voice was not loud. "I'm not—" Diana shook her head. "I think that's enough, Logan. Call security." That statement struck like thunder from around the area. A few passengers quickly turned away, trying to avoid the scene. Others widened their eyes, some pulling out their phones. Selena couldn't believe how quickly the situation was escalating. Calling security for what Selena raised her voice slightly more than usual. "She hasn't done anything wrong." Logan didn't respond already, lifting the phone. "We have a disruptive passenger at Gate B34. She's not cooperating. Please send someone immediately." Selena's heart raced. She knew exactly how this scenario would unfold. Once an airline labels a passenger as disruptive, especially a black person, things could spiral out of control in an instant. She needed to find a way to calm things down. But how Ma'am Diana turned to Selena, her eyes as cold as ice. Please either board the plane now or step aside. We will not discuss this any further. Selena tightened her grip on her shoulder. The next step she took would be decisive. I will stand right here with Monica until this is resolved, or until someone from Liberty Airways with more authority arrives. Just a few minutes later, 2 airport security officers appeared. One male, one female. The male officer placed his hand on the baton at his side, while the female officer carried a notebook. The sight immediately made everyone in the waiting area turn to look. "Officers over here." Logan waved his hand, his tone light as if he had just saved the situation. "This woman is causing trouble and refusing to leave the gate area." "Which one?" the female officer asked. Logan pointed directly at Monica. "Her and this woman here. She's interfering in something that doesn't concern her." He pointed at Selena. Monica began to gasp for air. Selena could see her eyes redden with anxiety. Stepping forward, Selena kept her voice calm and respectful. "Officers, my name is Selena Moore. Both Monica and I are passengers on this flight." She was told that her seat had been double booked. She was just trying to clarify, but the counter staff found her rude, and now she is being denied boarding. "We haven't done anything threatening." Logan interrupted. "She raised her voice at me and refused to leave the counter." The male officer looked at Monica, assessing her face and demeanor. "Ma'am, did you raise your voice at the staff?" Monica shook her head quickly. "I just asked him to check the ticket again." "Yes, I was upset, but I didn't yell. This flight is really important. I can't miss it. Tomorrow's my aunt's funeral in Jefferson City." Her voice faltered. Selena swallowed hard, feeling the injustice rising within her. How many times had she witnessed a black woman being labeled aggressive just for speaking louder than usual, while someone else who was truly out of control was overlooked? The female officer jotted something down. "Is there a manager or supervisor from the airline who can explain this situation?" Logan shrugged, clearly unwilling to cooperate. Diana crossed her arms, rolling her eyes. "We are the supervisors. According to policy, if a passenger is threatening or uncooperative, we have the right to deny service." The male officer sighed, looking at both women. "We can't force the airline to let you on the plane, ma'am." A wave of despair washed over Monica's face, as though she was about to collapse. "But I didn't do anything wrong." She rummaged through her bag and pulled out a printed confirmation of her booking. Her eyes turned to Selena, pleading. Selena was about to speak when Logan interjected. "Officers, they're causing a scene. We need them to leave the area so we can board the other passengers." "Both of them?" the female officer asked again. "You're refusing to serve both of them." Diana shot Selena a cold glare. "She's interfering in something that doesn't concern her." "Yes?" Selena's heart raced. She couldn't let them take Monica away on such baseless accusations. She took a deep breath, preparing herself. "Officers," she said, her gaze unwavering, "I am a U.S. Senator. I am traveling privately on this flight back to Jefferson City for official duties. I have every right to stand here with another passenger when I believe she is being treated unfairly." A wave of silence swept through the area. Selena gently pulled out her wallet and showed her official U.S. Senate ID. The female officer widened her eyes as she examined the ID closely. The male officer immediately adjusted his posture, becoming more formal. Logan and Diana's expressions changed instantly. The smugness they had earlier vanished. Whispers began to spread among the surrounding passengers. The tall man who had caused the trouble earlier quietly stepped back, clearly not wanting to be involved further. Senator Moore. The female officer read the name clearly from the card, glancing between the photo and her face to verify. I've heard your name before." Ma'am Selena nodded, putting the card back in her wallet. "Yes, that's correct. I wanted to keep my identity private, but this situation requires clarity." Logan looked as though he had just swallowed a lemon. Diana started stammering. We didn't know. Didn't know I was a senator. Selena responded, her voice gentle but authoritative. You don't need to know that to treat us fairly. We just want to clarify the booking issue. As soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere around the gate seemed to explode. Some passengers pulled out their phones to film. Others whispered, their eyes turned toward the counter. The two officers exchanged looks, unsure of what to do next. At that moment, an older passenger wearing a colorful floral dress stepped forward. I witnessed everything she said, her voice trembling slightly. The young woman wasn't aggressive. She was just sad and worried. A black man dressed in a business suit nodded. I can confirm I was waiting for my group and saw everything from the start. It was the counter staff who escalated the situation. Not her. Logan glared at them, but did not respond. Diana tried to salvage the situation. We will check if there are any available seats. Go ahead, the male officer said, crossing his arms in front of him. He seemed to have concluded that there was no threat here, ma'am, he said to Monica. I need your ticket and ID to verify. Monica handed them over her face. Clearly relieved, Selena stayed beside her arms, crossed gently, nodding in thanks to the two officers. Meanwhile, Logan frantically typed into his computer, his eyes constantly darting between Selena and the people around them. A few tense minutes passed. Diana announced, her voice much softer now. There's a seat available in premium economy. We can place her there. Monica nearly collapsed in relief. Thank you. That's all I need, Selena spoke up, emphasizing. And I won't be denied. Boarding this flight will, Diana swallowed hard. Of course not, Senator. We welcome you aboard. The female officer handed Monica her documents back. Everything's in order, ma'am. There's no issue. She hesitated, glancing at the gate staff. This could have been handled better. Logan, still visibly angry, forced a stiff smile. Thank you, officers. We appreciate your support. Selena also thanked the security officers, though she still felt a pang of unease inside. The incident had ended, but only because she had been forced to reveal her power. Monica was still trembling, but her eyes reflected gratitude. Boarding resumed, though the atmosphere remained heavy with silent judgment. Passengers shot angry glances toward Logan and Diana as they walked by. A few whispered words of support for Monica, who was trying to hold her head high, even though her cheeks were still damp with tears. Selena boarded right after her. She noticed Monica's seat was 12D, near the front of the economy class cabin. Selena, however, sat in 5C, her usual spot in business class tickets she personally paid for to avoid any controversy over government expenses. Though it was a short flight, she preferred having space to work. As soon as she settled in, Selena felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. The immediate issue had been resolved, but the deeper issues of racial bias and abuse of power by the gate staff still lingered like an unhealed wound. She had to use her position as a senator to shut down that confrontation. But what would have happened if she were just an ordinary black woman with no title? Perhaps they would have forced her to leave, or at least kept her out of the situation. As the flight attendants prepared for takeoff, Selena couldn't stop replaying the whole incident in her mind. Every detail felt like living evidence of a systemic issue that she had dedicated her career to exposing and fighting against. The fact that it unfolded right in front of so many people sent a chill down her spine. Power, she thought to herself darkly. Only with power can one overcome prejudice. As soon as the plane took off, the seatbelt sign was turned off. Passengers began to relax. Some reading books, others ordering drinks. Selena opened her laptop to adjust the speech she was preparing for her upcoming hearing. Ironically, the topic of the speech was equality and anti-discrimination policies in public institutions. About half an hour later, she sensed someone approaching her row. It was a female flight attendant. Her name tag read Rachel. She looked anxious. Senator Moore, I want to apologize for the incident at the gate earlier. Diana had warned her that there had been a situation. Selena smiled lightly, though her eyes remained cautious. Thank you. It was quite unpleasant, but I hope it will be resolved, Rachel nodded. Stepping closer. I completely agree. I just wanted to personally apologize. Not everyone recognizes your position, and she hesitated, searching for the right words. Some people are quick to judge. Selena exhaled. I appreciate you coming over, but the apology should really go to Monica. She's the one who was nearly forced off the plane. Rachel glanced quickly toward the back of the cabin. Yes, I think a colleague is speaking with her. Selena just nodded. She could feel Rachel's sincerity, but sincerity couldn't fix a system that was already rotten. As Rachel left, a wave of exhaustion swept over Selena. She looked at her phone. No signal. She tried to get back to her speech, but the words on the screen blurred. Her stomach tightened with anxiety. Suddenly, a commotion erupted from the economy class section. Selena sat up, eyes scanning the aisle. A flight attendant was rushing toward the front. A male passenger was raising his voice, saying something about favoritism and discrimination. The flight crew was trying to calm him down. Selena quietly stood up, careful not to trigger the seatbelt sign that had just come on due to slight turbulence. She looked down the aisle and saw the tall man from earlier standing next to Monica's seat, pointing at her. Why does she get a seat change? I've been a loyal customer for years, stuck in the middle, while she walks in like she's VIP, he shouted. Monica turned pale, a flight attendant standing in front of her, trying to shield her. Sir, please calm down, the attendant said softly. Calm down. I'm just asking why she gets special treatment. You can't just ignore me like this. Is it because she knows that senator? What about us? Another flight attendant rushed to assist. Passengers around them sighed, some covering their faces, others craning their necks to watch. The tension in the air thickened again. Selena stepped into the aisle, her voice firm. Sir! She was reassigned a seat because the airline made an error and corrected it by rearranging the seating. It's not because she's being given preferential treatment over you. The man's eyes flickered, and he turned to her. Oh, so the senator's speaking up for her friend. This is reverse discrimination. I'm not racist. I'm just saying it's not fair. Selena's lips tightened. You're causing a scene with no justifiable reason. The flight attendants continued to try to escort him back to his seat, gently explaining that rearranging seats was the airline's right, especially when there was an overbooking, but he kept grumbling, making the cabin feel suffocating. Finally, the flight attendants had threatened to report him to airport security if he didn't comply. That at last silenced him. He angrily returned to his seat, but the damage had been done. The cabin was quiet, heavy with tension. Selena exchanged a sympathetic glance with Monica, who whispered across the row, Thank you. Selena nodded and returned to her seat. The flight fell into an uncomfortable silence. Everyone avoided eye contact, burying their faces in their phones or magazines. As for Selena, her mind was spinning. She couldn't stop thinking about the times she had been interrogated, judged the moment she walked into a room. Even as a U.S. Senator, those prejudices were always lurking. It was only because of her title that she was let off. But if she took off that badge, she'd be just another black woman easily suspected and pushed aside like anyone else. Selena wasn't just concerned for Monica. She thought about all the people like Monica out there, those who didn't have a U.S. senator by their side to protect them. How many had been thrown off planes, or even arrested just because someone felt they were a threat. She clenched her fists. This can't keep happening. She thought, anger fueling the responsibility she carried. I won't let this happen again. 45 minutes later, the captain announced the plane was preparing to land in Jefferson City. The familiar sounds of trays folding seats returning to their upright positions filled the air, but the tension still lingered in the cabin. As the plane pulled into Claremont Regional Airport, the flight attendants thanked passengers for flying with Liberty Airways, but their voices were subdued, as if they knew this flight would be remembered long after everyone left. Selena packed her carry-on, walked out with the business-class passengers, and paused briefly to thank the flight crew. She glanced quickly back to see how Monica was doing, but the flow of people pushed her forward. As she entered the jet bridge, Selena noticed a group of airport security officers standing at the end talking quietly among themselves. Her heart sank. Did Logan report the incident to save face? She kept her calm, walked down the stairs, and as expected, one of the officers approached her. "Senator Moore," he asked politely. She nodded. "Yes." The officer cleared his throat. "We've received information about an incident on the flight. It might have been reported by the airline. Are you all right? Do you need any assistance?" Selena blinked. "I'm fine, thank you." "Yes, there was an incident, but no one was harmed or threatened. Everything has been resolved." Behind her, Monica had just stepped off the plane, her eyes cautiously scanning the group of officers. The officer pointed toward her. "Is she the remaining passenger involved?" Selena turned. "Yeah, but both of us are fine. No further intervention is needed. It was really just a misunderstanding that the airline complicated." The officer nodded politely. "Understood. We just wanted to verify." Monica sighed in relief. "Thank you, officer." They left together. Monica turned to Selena, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I really don't know how to thank you. At that moment, I thought they were going to throw me off the plane. Or worse." Selena gently touched her shoulder. "No need to thank me. No one should have to go through that. I'm sorry you had to experience it." Monica's lips trembled. "My aunt, she just passed away. I came back for the funeral. Everything today has been overwhelming." Selena looked at her with a gentle gaze. "I understand. If there's anything more I can do..." Monica wiped her tears. "You've already done more than enough. Just keep fighting for people like me. Senator, we need people like you in positions of power." Selena felt a sharp pang in her chest. Then that feeling turned into fierce determination. "I will do just that." What Selena didn't know was that some passengers had recorded the incident at the gate in Franklin, Monroe. By the time she and Monica entered the Claremont Airport lobby, the video had already begun to spread on social media. In just a few minutes, it went viral. Some passengers recognized Selena and tweeted Liberty Airways gate staff calls the police on a black woman, until they realized the person next to her is a U.S. Senator. The hashtag, Bay Trong de Mao flying. While black began trending, news outlets quickly picked up the story, airing the shaky video showing Logan, Diana, and the airport officers. As Selena reconnected her phone, the screen lit up with notifications, messages from her assistants, missed calls from reporters, and an overflowing inbox. The communications director, Samantha Price, had left 3 urgent messages. "Senator, call me immediately. We're in the middle of a media crisis and a huge opportunity." Selena sighed, pressed the phone to her ear. She turned to Monica. "I need to handle this." "Will you be all right?" Monica nodded. "My family is waiting for me outside." "Thanks again." They exchanged contact information. Monica nodded gratefully. One last time, then merged into the crowd. Selena hurried to a quiet corner near the Capitol Books kiosk and called Samantha. "Selena, what's going on?" Samantha asked as soon as she picked up, her voice full of concern. Selena recounted the entire incident, every detail. Samantha listened intently, occasionally gasping in surprise. After she finished, Samantha's voice dropped. "We can't ignore this. Social media is exploding. People want you to speak up." Selena rubbed her forehead. "Tired? I need some time to think. I have a hearing tomorrow, and I can't let this overshadow the focus." "But it already has," Samantha said bluntly. "We can turn this into a living testament for the fight you've always pursued, a real voice and strategy." Selena looked around the terminal. All right, press conference after tomorrow's hearing. I'll post a short statement on social media now, calling for calm. Tomorrow, I'll speak officially. Perfect. I'll have the draft ready in 15 minutes. After ending the call, Selena swallowed her emotions. She felt drained and a bit sad that she had to turn Monica's trauma into a media step. But she also understood shedding light on situations like this could bring real change. The next morning, Selena walked into the Senate hearing room, the formal space with seats neatly arranged for staff reporters and the public. Today's topic, reviewing amendments to the Civil Rights Act, a bill Selena had been pursuing from the beginning. The coincidence didn't sit well with her. Several colleagues came by to greet her, some offering words of encouragement, others watching with curiosity. Senator Brenner, a senior figure with moderate views, raised an eyebrow as he passed. Heard you had quite a special flight. Senator Moore, Selena, forced a polite smile. News travels fast. Let's just consider it a real-world lesson on the prejudices many still face. Senator Brenner nodded slowly, as if weighing something in his mind. After today's hearing, do you plan to make an official statement? She replied, I want to keep the focus on the bill today. The hearing proceeded as usual, long testimonies, open debates, proposed amendments carefully analyzed. Yet throughout it all, Selena's phone buzzed continuously with updates about the viral video. A fierce debate erupted on Twitter. Some defended the airline, claiming there was no racial discrimination, but the majority called it a blatant example of prejudice. During the break, Selena stepped into the hallway, its white marble floors echoing her footsteps. Samantha caught up with her holding a tablet. The video's hit 2 million views, she panted. The reporters are waiting outside, just hoping you'll speak. Selena answered coldly, Let them wait. I'll speak after the hearing. By the end of the afternoon, after completing her committee work, Selena stepped outside where a makeshift podium had been set up for the press conference. Journalists, photographers, and TV crews filled the hallway, ready to capture every moment. Selena walked up to the microphone and adjusted her stance. She wore a black blazer, the Senate pin gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Good afternoon, she began, her voice echoing clearly. Thank you for being here. I want to address the incident that occurred yesterday at Franklin Monroe Airport, a passenger. A young black woman was denied boarding seemingly due to a seating error. When she spoke up, the gate staff failed to handle it properly and instead threatened to call the police. She paused, scanning the reporters. I intervened because I believed, and still believe, that she was not treated fairly, and that threatening to kick her off the plane was unjust. When I revealed that I was a U.S. Senator, the situation finally calmed down. But here's the important part. What if I hadn't been a U.S. Senator? How many people, especially black people, are unfairly scrutinized and unable to defend themselves? A wave of murmurs rippled through the reporters. Camera flashes went off in rapid succession. To be clear, I don't intend to accuse the entire airline or its staff. But we need to acknowledge that prejudices exist in the system and often lead to unjust treatment. The young woman Monica was on her way to her aunt's funeral. She was in a very fragile situation, and she deserved to be treated with compassion, not suspicion. Selena's voice grew more resolute. I will propose an investigation into how airlines handle disputes like this. And furthermore, I will work with my colleagues to introduce anti-discrimination provisions in the upcoming Civil Rights Bill. Every passenger deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their race or status. She ended her speech and opened the floor for questions from the press. A flurry of questions rang out. Senator Moore, have you received an official response from Liberty? Are you planning to file a lawsuit? What specific reforms are you proposing? Selena skillfully responded, emphasizing that she was seeking constructive dialogue, not legal battles. The press conference concluded with a cautiously optimistic atmosphere. Yet Selena couldn't shake the heavy memories. Monica's tear-streaked face, the helplessness at the gate, the abuse of power used as a shield for the wrong reasons. Less than 24 hours later, Liberty Airways officially issued an apology acknowledging that the situation should have been handled more delicately. They emphasized their commitment to inclusivity and announced an internal review. For image reasons, they offered Monica a free upgrade on her return flight. But the online reaction was deeply divided. Some felt it was too little too late. The names Logan and Diana flooded the internet despite the airline's efforts to keep them anonymous in official statements. Passengers present at Gate B34 that day had posted detailed accounts of what they witnessed. Some shared that they had been treated disrespectfully by the two staff members on prior occasions. A wave of outrage demanding the airline be held accountable grew stronger. Liberty stock even dipped slightly in the short term. News channels debated whether this was a sign of a deeper problem or just an isolated incident. Selena watched the media frenzy with mixed emotions, both hopeful and frustrated. She wished no one ever had to experience the humiliation Monica had gone through. A week later, as national attention began to shift, an internal memo from Liberty Airways was leaked. It revealed that Diana and Logan had previously been the subject of complaints for discriminatory behavior. HR had issued warnings, but nothing was made public. The memo was a bombshell. Advocacy groups jumped into action, demanding Liberty fire both of them. Some even called for a boycott of the airline. In a dramatic move, Liberty announced that Diana and Logan had been indefinitely suspended pending a full investigation. For many, it was a form of justice served in time. The two employees who had easily called the police based on prejudice now had to face the consequences of their actions. Some were pleased. Others argued that the fault didn't just lie with the two individuals, but with a system that lacked proper training and oversight. Selena, though not reveling in anyone's downfall, felt a sense of relief seeing justice begin to unfold. She couldn't forget Logan's furious expression as he ordered the police actions have consequences. She thought, that day they abused their power, and it was the public's fierce reaction that forced them to face the possibility of losing their jobs, or at least standing on the brink. The new bill includes provisions requiring federal agencies to collect data on complaints related to racial discrimination at public transportation points, particularly airports. It also advocates for passenger rights protection laws to prevent unjust ejections and demands that airlines enhance employee training on de-escalating situations. Selena stepped onto the Senate floor, delivering her speech emotionally, while subtly referencing her recent personal experience. Millions of Americans travel every day. Most don't encounter any issues, but for so many people, especially Black people, the journey becomes a silent battle against suspicion and disrespect. We must ensure the law will protect them. The public's strong reaction led to the Senate passing the bill with support from both parties. Even those initially skeptical were swayed by the growing wave of shared personal experiences. Selena felt a lump in her throat as she saw the electronic board light up showing the voting results in her favor. A few days later, after the amendment was passed, Selena decided to call Monica. They had exchanged numbers earlier. Despite her packed schedule, Selena found an afternoon to make the call, Monica answered with a slow, deep voice. She explained that her aunt's funeral was a small emotional ceremony. She was still processing the loss, but also expressed her deep gratitude. "You changed my life," Monica whispered, "but not just mine. Now I see people talking about this online, even those who never thought that a suspicious glance or small actions could hurt someone else. Now they're starting to understand." Through my story, Selena felt her throat tighten. "I'm just glad you got home safely and that you could say goodbye to your Aunt Monica." Asked about the progress of the bill, Selena explained that it had passed partly due to the widespread impact of the airport incident. They both laughed softly, realizing that ironically, an injustice had turned into a national turning point. "I hope it helps others not have to go through what we did," Monica said. "I do too," Selena replied. "Let's stay in touch. If you need anything, just let me know." Not long after, Selena's office received an official letter from the CEO of Liberty Airways. The letter expressed deep regret over the incident at Gate B34, committed to restructuring employee training, and offered to collaborate with the Senator's office to develop fairer and more comprehensive travel policies. Clearly, this was a diplomatic move to salvage their image after the media storm. Selena considered how to respond. Samantha suggested holding a meeting to turn the negative situation into a real opportunity for improvement. Selena agreed. Open dialogue could lead to meaningful change. In the private meeting, Liberty's leadership thanked Selena for her willingness to engage. They sought her input in creating new guidelines for staff handling gate disputes. Selena shared her perspective, emphasizing empathy and controlling personal biases. The conversation went more positively than she expected, but she remained cautiously alert. Real change takes time, she reminded them. Across the United States, Selena and Monica's story continued to resonate. Many people began sharing similar experiences with the airline industry, leading to a surge of demands for accountability and transparency from corporations. Other airlines quietly began reviewing their internal policies, fearing being dragged into a similar scandal. Advocacy groups seized the moment to push for stronger protections from the Department of Transportation. Even politicians who had previously avoided the topic of racial discrimination now felt compelled to speak up. Although some critics accused Selena of branding herself, her long-standing record on civil rights made such attacks meaningless. In communities across the country, the incident became a symbol of awakening. The phrase "pulling the senator card" became an iconic slogan, pointing out that sometimes only special identities could help someone avoid injustice. For Selena, the entire journey was both a political victory and a personal reminder. She realized that power could be very fragile. Even as a senator, she wasn't exempt from the discriminatory looks she received that day at the airport. What if she hadn't pulled out her ID? She thought about her life's journey from a girl growing up in a working-class neighborhood to becoming one of the most influential lawmakers in the country. That path had been built on countless experiences of being overlooked and doubted. That very reality made her more determined than ever to continue changing the narrative, so future generations wouldn't need priority boarding to be respected. On a personal level, she called her parents to tell them the whole story. Her mother, a retired teacher, choked up on the phone. "Do you remember when people said that if you kept resisting the system, you'd get nowhere? Look at you now." Selena laughed through her tears. "I did it because of you." Meanwhile, the fates of Diana and Logan were still being discussed in the public sphere. According to the latest reports, the internal hearing had concluded termination. Though the union tried to seek a lighter penalty, the airline concluded that the incident was part of a broader pattern of behavior. Many passengers from previous flights also came forward to testify. Investigators discovered that Logan and Diana had a particular tendency to scrutinize black passengers. On social media, rumors spread that Logan was furious, claiming he was made a scapegoat and that Selena played the race card. But very few people sided with him. Diana, on the other hand, sent a private apology letter to Monica. Perhaps a late attempt at redemption. Monica shared the letter with Selena, unsure whether to forgive or distance herself. Selena advised her to go with her instincts. "You're the only one who can decide. But remember, you did nothing wrong." They had to pay the price for their actions. It was a sobering lesson in cause and effect, that you can't abuse power unjustly and expect no consequences, especially in a world increasingly moving toward transparency and accountability. Months passed, and life continued. The sensational headlines were gradually replaced by new controversies and the next election season. But the subtle changes that had been set in motion kept progressing. Airlines reported that they had improved their complaint handling training programs, some even making it mandatory to follow the new government regulations. The Department of Transportation also launched pilot programs to collect data on the frequency with which black passengers were affected by overbookings or labeled disruptive. Selena Moore slowly became a leading face for justice in the transportation industry, collaborating with civil rights organizations to monitor the situation. She hadn't forgotten Monica, occasionally reaching out to check in. Monica later found a new job in Jefferson City, the city where Selena worked. In a symbolic gesture, she chose to live in the city where her own story had sparked a wave of change. She told Selena that she wanted to be close to the heart of the action, to contribute to social reform in her own way. One day, they met at a small, cozy coffee shop in the city center. Monica's eyes lit up as she talked about the nonprofit she was volunteering with, a place that provided free legal counsel to passengers facing discrimination. "I turned my painful experience into a reason to help others," she said, sipping her latte. "If I can stop just one person from going through what I did, then it's all been worth it." Selena smiled, pride swelling in her heart. "I'm so glad you found your cause. We need more people like you." They clinked their cups lightly, no words needed, but the meaning was clear: for resilience, for growth, and for a fairer world. Time passed, and another year went by. Whenever Selena traveled through Franklin Monroe Airport, she noticed small but significant changes. More diverse staff, friendlier gate attendants, and more attentive supervisors. During a behind-the-scenes visit, she even saw a large poster in the break room: anti-discrimination and de-escalation policy. Respect is the standard. It wasn't a perfect fix, but it was clearly a step in the right direction. Still, the memory of that day never faded. The anxiety when she heard the 3 words call security, the panicked look in Monica's eyes, and the nearly immediate shift in attitude just because Selena pulled out her senator ID. She wondered how many people out there would never have that opportunity to turn the tide. That thought always led her to the same conclusion: I must continue to use my voice, not just for myself, but for all those who don't have a senator standing beside them. In her later re-election campaign, Selena's policy platform expanded to include consumer protections in the transportation sector. The grassroots support surged. They felt that she truly understood their pain. Political experts noted that this steadfast stance helped her broaden her influence and solidify her position as a true representative of the people. On the night the election results were announced, when her victory was confirmed, Selena thought back to the confrontation at Gate B34. Sometimes the biggest battles happen in the most ordinary places, she thought to herself. Airports, supermarkets, sidewalks. And we must always be ready no matter where it happens. They say justice is a long journey, but sometimes that journey begins right at an airport gate where a woman is asked to leave simply for requesting fair treatment. And right there, another woman, bearing the title of senator, refused to stand by Selena Moore. Not only helped Monica keep the seat she paid for, but more importantly, she helped preserve her dignity and voice in a world that often denies both. But the story didn't end there. From a video recorded at Franklin Monroe Airport to the wave of outrage on social media, to the powerful Senate hearings, all of it combined to spark a movement demanding justice, equality, and accountability. What would have happened if I hadn't pulled out my Senate ID that day? It wasn't just a personal question. It was a wake-up call for society. That when only a title can save someone from injustice, it's time to rewrite the rules. Monica, once a silent victim, rose up and chose to stand with others in need of help, just like she once was. She moved to Jefferson City, working for an organization that provides legal assistance to passengers facing discrimination, and that alone is clear proof. If pain doesn't kill us, it teaches us how to fight for others. And in her next re-election campaign, Selena Moore didn't need flashy promotions. She proved through action that justice isn't a slogan, but a choice made every day, even when no one is watching. When passing through the old airport where everything began, she saw a poster in the staff break room. No one gets left behind because of their skin color or their voice. Although it was just a piece of paper, it stood as living proof that change is real. If you've made it this far and felt the weight of this story, please share this video with your loved ones and friends, because perhaps all they need is a reminder that they are not alone. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more touching stories about courage, justice, and truth. Thank you for listening. See you on the next journey, where one person's voice can be the hope of thousands of others.